Hey guys, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode, that doesn't go on a two-stroke engine. What are we working on today? So I had a neighbor call me up, said, hey man, my side-by-side is blowing smoke. Can you come take a look at it? And before you know it, I got a side-by-side engine on the bench. Let me bring you in and show you what we're working on today. Welcome to Man Time. Alright guys, welcome back to Man Time. Let's get after this thing. So this is the project at hand today. This is a Polaris Ranger 570 engine, and I'm just getting to, well, I'll just go through what happened. So my neighbor calls me up and says, hey man, I got my side-by-side stuck in a mud hole, Polaris single cylinder engine. I can turn wrenches. You know, what do you need to come over and help me fix whatever's wrong with this thing? And I said, well, let me come over there, bring my compression tester, and see how it's looking, and then we'll kind of make decisions on what we need to do from there, right? Well, he calls me up the next day, said, hey man, I'm about to start tearing into this thing, you know, stop by on your way home. And so I stopped by. It's just neighbor, like right down the road here, and I was like, yeah, I wanted to bring over, you know, my compression tester, get a good baseline, see what we're at and what we're doing here. And I was like, well, he's like, well, I really want to get started on it. You know, it's time crunch, whatever. I need to get it back up before deer season. I was like, okay, we'll start it up and let's see what's going on. So he starts it up and it's just like blowing smoke, like bad smoke, like, you know, rings are gone, something's really bad, or valve seal. So I said, all right. It's going to need at least a piston, valves, valve seals. Like, if you want to do this thing right, we're going to have to take the engine apart. So we're going to need replacement gaskets, because, yeah, here we go. Yeah, these are seriously one-time use gaskets. You pull this engine apart and you need a new gasket, right? So I was like, get all this stuff ordered, and then we'll go to tearing it apart, and, you know, it's going to need everything, basically. If you want to get it up and running as quickly as possible, order these parts, and then we'll tear into it, and then we can just slap it back together. It's take it apart, put new parts on, put it back together. Well, 300-hour vehicle, right? So I'm thinking 300 hours, it's got to be one of those three things. He got it stuck in a mud hole. He was revving it back and forth for, you know, half hour or whatever it was, trying to get it out of there, get it unstuck. Anywho, the real problem is right here. There's a ridge right there, and you can almost see ribs. There it is. There it is. See how predominant that ridge is, and then like the ribs through there? Because I was taking it apart, and I was like, man, the piston doesn't look that bad. Like when a piston looks bad and rings look bad, you can like see a line, you know, of oil, carbon that's been coming up on one side of it. And I just didn't see that. And I mean, I saw that the cross hatching was gone on here, but again, you got oil and you got antifreeze and you got like everything all over it, you know. And so I was like, well, let me take this home and hone it, and let me take the head home and lap the valves in and put it all back together, you know, with new valve seals. These are going to be the valve seals, like a old World War II hat. That's going to be your valve seal. So we got 4 of those. We got new valves. I'm going to lap those into place here. But let me show you the difference between a lap valve and a non-lap valve real quick. But if your quad is smoking and you can't figure out why, I mean, make sure to check this. Because the deal is, it's called a wet cylinder, right? So it's got a water jacket all the way around it. And it's just hollow, you know, in there for the most part. It's got one rib right here all the way around, and then it's just a hollow cylinder, and it's got something called a nickel silicone carbide lining or something, you know, similar to like a chainsaw lining, but just aluminum. And this one really gave way. I mean, it's incredible. There, you can see that ribbing and that ridge, and that's right up against, you know, the compression side of it. But let me show you on the bench here on the head the difference between a lapped valve and a non-lapped valve, and let's look at this head a little bit. Just texting the guy back on what parts he needed to order this part specifically. But alright, so here we go. So I've got this valve lapped in there, and I just wanted to show you guys like real quick. See how I'm tapping this? And like nothing's happening, right? I can push it through, tap it up, and it's like there. Like those surfaces are so closely matched, it's got a friction of resistance that is actually holding it into that seat. Now here's a non-lapped valve, and you see what's going on there? It's like, it's just not quite at that same level, right? It's pretty close, and it'll probably still work. But if you want that type of seal, like that friction seal when two surfaces are perfectly mated, that's what valve lapping does for you. So you'll need a few things to lap the valve. I use this valve lapping compound, Permatex. I also will use like a piece of fuel line, and this is like lawnmower engine fuel line. And what you do there with the valve through the back of the engine, you just feed this on there. Oh, yeah, that's the one that's lapped already. It's nice and tight. All right, so on this other one, what we're gonna do, feed that in there, pop it out, get some valve lapping compound on there. And I don't know if, I mean, obviously some people know how to do this. It's lapping valves, but I don't know that too many people know how to do this. So we'll just kind of go through one here real quick. Get that valve lapping compound all around there like that, and then just you can do it by hand like this, or you can put a drill on it. Sometimes I'll run a drill bit in here. That should probably do it. Hear that valve lapping compound in there? Really going to work. That sounds pretty happy to me. Pull that off of there. We'll pull the valve out of there, and now we'll check it and see if we're getting close to what that other one was sounding like. Yeah, since this, since that cylinder, you know, has that huge, I don't know if you'd call it a defect or what, and it looks like the part number's changed when you go to order the new cylinder from Polaris. So maybe they've done something about that, but who knows. All right, see how we're doing. See there? It's so seated in there, it creates a vacuum because those surfaces are so closely mated. So there's how you tell if your valves are seated correctly. Okay, next thing, let's see here. We've got to get our new valve seals on here, and I'll just take you through one set of valves, and it's the same on the other side. And then I've got to take this stuff back to my neighbor. But we'll do one set of valves, and I'll show you this new valve compressor tool I got. This was a cheapy Amazon Motuful, or you know, whatever the you know what I'm talking about. The Chinese companies come with a new name for their stuff like all the time. But it's this big C channel, and if I didn't have this, I wouldn't have been able to get this out of there. So let me get this tool set up, and then I'll show you how to put the valve seats in there, the valve springs, and then the valve keepers, and and that'll, you know, just rinse and repeat for the intake side. I think we're ready to put it back together here. I've actually got one assembled in there, so I can show you one kind of quickly, or more quickly than what that one was. So first thing I do is put some lube in here. So I've went ahead and put some Zoom Spout down in there to kind of lubricate everything. We've got our new valve seal here from Polaris, and it's a little top hat, and you pop that right down on there. And then valve spring. Now, when I was racing dirt bikes, I would take a great deal of time, you know, and I would actually measure, you know, the valve springs. With your cars too, same deal. You've got a tolerance that the height of that is, so it puts the amount of pressure that's correct on there, and you know, all that stuff. Make sure to keep your valves separate. You know, you've got one lapped into one side, one lapped into the other side. All that hard work is going to go away if you get those mixed up, right? And then, so we've got, let's see if we can see this here. I want to make sure you guys can see this. So we've got our tool. Alright, so here is our tool. This is a spring compressor tool. And I'll see if I can find it, you know, on the website there. Maybe link it down in the description. But like I said, a valve spring compressor tool that looks like a C shape. I think they're all about the same. I just sorted by cheapest first, and here we go. So what I'm doing here is just compressing this down, making sure that it's there's probably a better one out there. Matter of fact, I'm not going to link this one. I'll let you make the mistake and order the one with the handle that keeps falling out. How about that? But what you're doing there is just running this down enough to where you can get these little keepers in there. And these keepers look like that. They got a little rib, and it's like a half circle cone type of deal. That's going to go on either side of our valve with the thin taper going down. Trying to show you here, and you may not have it deep enough, like I don't here. There it goes. And see, we've got our valve spring compressor. It's compressed down, and we've got those valve seats in there, where when we come back up with it, it should lock back into place. Yeah, get one that has a locking handle. Alright, so there we go. Exhaust valves, they are complete on this one. Here's our exhaust port, exhaust manifold, and exhaust valves right there. Intake are a little bit bigger. I got some replacements for those too, but yeah, pretty cool. I mean, you can, you know, give them a check, push down on the springs there. They should be good and tight, so it wasn't overheated to the point where it's taken the temper out of the springs. Even if the springs are at the right height, they could still have gotten overheated, and checking them that way is going to help you out. That's something fun. I remember the first time I got called a grease monkey. It was by a girlfriend at the time, and I took offense to that when she called me that. She's not with me anymore. Not because she called me a grease monkey, but at the time that was something like, I'd come in from working on dirt bikes and I would be just filthy, like covered, you know, head to toe, grime grit from replacing cylinders and clutches and changing oil, you know, whatever. Doing, you know, with the clutch, the clutches that dirt bikes have, you got to change the oil like every race after you get done doing practice and race and everything like that. So I was changing oil, you know, every other week or whenever I was racing it, and clutches and, you know, this and that. And I had a 2-stroke 125 and a 4-stroke 450. Still got them. Still, you know, they've been in storage for a little while. But anyways, the 4-strokes, you know, they didn't have YouTube, I guess, when I was going through it. They had forums. So I would read forums and just start taking stuff apart and figuring it out and putting it back together. So this reminds me of taking apart my Suzuki 450 quite a bit. One thing you really want to, the biggest tip I can give you here is don't let your timing chain fall down in here. That was the biggest mistake I made on that Suzuki 450. God. And it had an automatic / manual chain tensioner too, which was the downfall of that machine. But anyways, don't let your timing chain fall down through there and you'll be alright. Alright, that's going to do it for today on Man Time, guys. Get out there, have you some man time too.